What's up, everybody? It's Polish Pete, and this is our top 3 winter baits. So out of all the baits we have here at Omnia Fishing, the 3 baits that we think are the most versatile around the country in this winter time patterns that we're stuck in right now are these 3 I'm going to talk about here. Up here where we live in Minnesota, we actually physically have to drill a hole in the ice to try and get some fishing done. But here's some baits that we were using all the way up until the ice froze up. And now as we can travel to the closest location with open water, which is in Iowa right now, then into northern Missouri, but anywhere around the country in these winter temperature months, these are 3 baits that'll catch them all winter long. Starting with the ever famous blade bait. So this right here is a favorite of us, all the guys that work here. As you notice here, these ones have all been modified, so they actually have braid loops tied to them instead of having split rings on them. That's a little trick we do up here. These ones happen to be the Damiki Vaults here. This one's in a 3/8, this one's in a 1/2 ounce. You can see there's quite a bit of difference in there. Usually numbers-wise, do a little better on that 3/8, but that 1/2 ounce will get you a big bait in the wintertime. If you're tournament fishing or looking for a larger kicker fish in the day, it's worth it to switch up to this 1/2 ounce. This is one of the baits where I've seen one of the biggest differences in the size of bites that I've gotten. I like going to that 1/2 ounce if I'm around some larger fish for sure. Next up is the ever famous chandelier. So this is from Hog Farmer, and I have to preface this by saying, check your local regulations wherever you live throughout the country. There's different rules and regulations. Right now in Minnesota, like I said, we're frozen, so we can't even throw one, but Hog Farmer does make a Minnesota rig, which is a single hook A-rig. So we can only run 1 swim bait head and a swim bait on the A-rigs in Minnesota. This is a 3-hook version right here. I use this one a lot when I go down south. But if you just want to check and make sure your local regulations, you just abide by the rules there. Hog Farmer is going to make an A-rig that suits you no matter where you live in the country that you can fish legally. My favorite swim bait heads are the Picasso Smartmouth heads. They're what it's on here right now. These use big, oversized, heavy-duty hooks in them, so I can get away with big braided line and a big, strong rod. If I'm fishing around dock cables and docks on Lake of the Ozarks, something like that, I can get the fish away. I don't lose the A-rigs. If I get hung up, I can usually knock them off and get them back. Favorite baits, like everybody, is the Kitech on here. The 3/3 size has been a confidence one for me. I've switched it up a lot with lots of different swim baits, but it seems to me like the Kitechs always tend to come through for you, especially in these cold winter months. And last but not least is one that's certainly not a secret by any means, but it gets overlooked sometimes in the winter because people always try and get a little bit of a reaction bite out of them, really fishing slow reaction baits, is the old Ned Rig, the Deadly Nedley. This one here is a Z-Man Finesse TRD on the Outcast Perfect Ned Head here. This is the time of year typically with Outcast. What I like about their Ned Head is I tend to fish around a lot of vegetation where I live. So I like the 2/0 hook versions, the bigger, heavier duty hooks, because I'll run braid to a leader. And a little bit stouter rod than most people would Ned Rig with, because I like to throw them right on grass lines or in pockets in grass or even in the grass sometimes. But when you get to these cold winter months, it's nice with these because you can downsize these little finesse 1/0 hooks. And you can get a bite barely even having to set the hook, just putting a little bit of weight on the fish. And a lot of times that's your bites are like with these in the winter. You really can't even sometimes feel that they're there. It's when you're actually moving the bait at all to check and see where you're at on the bottom there and clean up your slack line, you notice that you got a fish moving off with it or there's some weight there. So these little finesse hooks can be key this time of year in the winter. And as always, the Z-Man plastics are key when you're fishing a Ned Rig because they are so buoyant, they'll stand straight up and down. And with just the natural movement in the water, they'll actually impart a little tiny bit of action on the bait. So the fact that these will stand up and kind of do a little dance for the fish if they're sitting there staring at it and they're cold and they don't want to actively feed, but they can't resist staring at this thing like a little meal for a period of time, they'll eat the Ned Rig in the winter. So all 3 of these, the blade bait, the A-rig, and the Ned Rig, are all baits that you should have in your boat when you're fishing in the cold winter months. Take care, go catch them.